Welcome back. Well, I'm happy to report um, my butchery has been a success. This guy is working. I have a pack of film inside, so I'm not going to actually show you that it's working. And I have shot 2 frames so far. The first one looked a bit weird. It had like a band on the middle of the picture that had a slightly different exposure. I rechecked the rollers, re-cleaned them a bit. The second one turned out super nice. It's very greenish bluish because it was frigging cold. So it was like -2 or -3 degrees Celsius outside. The camera was in my bag, so it was kind of, I don't know, 5 degrees overall. I took the frame and got the picture in my jacket, in my chest pocket, and I hoped it would be warm enough for the development phase, but I'm not really sure what the correct conditions are. So does it need to be like the whole film pack at a certain temperature when you take the photo, and afterwards also keep it at a steady temperature until it develops, or maybe only the development part is important? I don't know. I didn't Google it yet. Anyhow, this is the image. All right. Unfortunately, I can only show it to you like this because the actual image is in my film scanner, actually my document scanner, and scanner is in the other room, and for the time being the dog is locked inside, so I'm not going to disturb her from her sleep. But yeah, it worked. So this is the good news. I didn't do the reskin because I have a very hard time cutting the round corners. So I would need something like a round, I don't know how they are called, punch holes, right? A round punch hole, like cut in half, and the diameter of the punch hole to be equal to the diameter of that arc of circle. And that's probably what I'm going to do, because I haven't found anyone to be able to laser cut, at least not in my city, to laser cut the pieces. And for my plan, so this is the original color. I kept the piece for the purpose of this video, and this is a piece of real leather that matches unbelievably well, because obviously I'm not looking at the white spots, I'm looking at this area, for instance. So it's a brown cognac color, super nice. This is the kind of leather that I want to use, 1 mm thick. It should look very nice and very close to the original. All right, so that's the good news with the white Polaroid. And now for the brown Polaroid, I also have good news. Somehow, in a stroke of luck, I found a gear train plate that had that little riveted gear intact. And that allowed me to put everything back and to see that it works. Now, last time I talked about my mistake with the motor casing that was flipped upside down, let's say. And I did check, I hope I remember correctly, I did check the rotation of the motor after taking it apart and putting it back the correct way by using a bit of masking tape, because my my main concern was to actually determine that the rotation order or the orientation of the rotation was correct. So what I did, I placed a piece of tape, I'm gonna get this drill bit, on the shaft like this. So like a flag. Okay, something like this. And then I connected the motor to a film pack. And I allowed it to spin for a while. Obviously, when the rotation was like this, so like this being counterclockwise, this flag had the tendency to coil like this. So in the end, I had the bit that was stuck on the shaft and the rest of the flag underneath. When I swapped the casing, I redid the same flag thing again, but this time, because it was spinning the other way around, the flag part was also underneath, but going the other way. So one was going to the right, one was going to the left. And this was my method of determining that it indeed turns the other way when the casing is flipped. So far so good. But once, oh my god, I was about to drop it. Jesus Christ. All right, damn. Once I had everything put back together, just a second, I need to breathe a couple of times and not break these super fine drill bits. Okay. Oh god. So, once I had everything back together, I noticed that it was acting weirdly. Meaning that, okay, I get the film back inside, I close the door, it cycles through, but there's no image. So the shutter blades were always closed. Sometimes, after a lot of fiddling, it would work fine. The shutter blades would remain open, I would be able to take another picture. Other times, I would simply put it down and it would go through the cycle. Or simply hold it like this and at some point it would start going through the cycle on its own. My first thought was that there is a mismatch between the PCB and the shutter assembly. So I took this one out and I replaced it with the shutter assembly from my broken camera. So basically the camera that had this PCB, same story. So there's no mismatch. That was just a thought. Then next culprit could have been a faulty contact somewhere. The first one to be checked was this one, because it's the most accessible one. Basically, right now you need to have continuity on these two contacts. If you open the front hatch, the contact is opened, so there's no continuity. It worked fine, no problem. And then at some point I noticed that when holding it, it was going super haywire, and I noticed that my finger was here on these contacts. And therefore I looked at these contacts and I realized, let me see if you can see. Yeah. So I realized this one is all wobbly. And Obviously this is another one of my mistakes. I remember having a very hard time desoldering these 2 points. I mean, not the actual desolder, but getting this thing out, because these little holes in the copper wiring are super small, and these little fuckers, so these end connecting points, have like a little beak, a little something that would always grab on the holes. So it's like a hook. Getting them out is super tricky, especially if your solder wick doesn't absorb all the solder, so there is still some connection, some solder connection. So you always need to go back and heat it up, move it around, and so on until the two pieces separate. And probably, or not probably, but very likely, I melted one of these plastic pins or rivets. So right now this contact is foobar. Now, I rechecked the manual, so another lesson learned. And this is contact number 8, and this is contact number 9. This one should be always closed until you get a pack of film in and the blank or the dark slide is ejected. When that is ejected, this gear moves, so it advances to 10, and in that moment this gear has a raised lip or something on this part. So when it turns, see, when it turns to 10, that lip is going down because it's rotating with the gear, and this contact is released because when the gear is in this position, the lip, or I don't know why I'm calling it lip, it's a thing, a protrusion, a raised something. That raised something is pushing on this contact against this contact. So basically you have two contacts here. This is number 8 between this and this, so it bridges these 2 points. The other one bridges these 2 points. Alright, so when this gear turns, this flexible contact is allowed to move down, and the contact between this part and this part, so switch number 8, becomes open, and it will stay open all the way until the pack is taken out. When it's taken out, the film counter resets, moves back in this position, closes the contact. So normally you would have to have I mean, normally it wouldn't matter what happens to these contacts, right? Because you can shoot the camera without film inside, but I presume that the contact that is always open, closed, open, closed, open, closed messes the computer up. I hope so, because otherwise I'm back to scratch. All right, now what my plan is right now is to fix the problem, and fixing the problem won't be easy because obviously these rivets, these plastic rivets, I can't redo them. So I have tested a little method, and so far so good, it works. There is nothing underneath this piece of plastic where all the contacts are living. Okay, it's a gap and then another piece of plastic. So what I'm going to do, I am going to cut the other one, simply cut it off. Okay, then I will use a very sharp blade to remove any kind of excess. Then I will make 2 holes, one here, with apparently a 1 millimeter drill bit is fine, because I tried with a 0.8 and it was too small in my case, but I think I'm going to use a 0.8 and then a 1 mm drill, okay, to make two holes where the rivets were. And then I am going to use one of these super small screws. I have 3 of them. Actually, I thought I had 4, but I guess 3 is better than none. To actually get that contact back in place. And I did the testing with another contact from one body shell that is totally fucked. Excuse my French. Alright, so yeah, that's why it's very good to have like screws, all sorts of screws. These were a gift from a good friend. And yeah, I was lucky enough to find these very small screws. Obviously, these are the wrong kind of screws, because you should be using some, I don't know, plastic screws for plastic, such as this one, that have a rougher pitch, or a larger pitch. I don't know what's the adjective for pitch to describe that. These are metal screws, so the pitch is very small, but as long as you don't force it when it reaches the end of the length, they, or it, one of these screws, will cut a thread in the plastic bit, and it will stay tight enough, I suppose, to be okay. What I can also do, get the screws in, check that the contacts work correctly, and then take one out, add a very little bit of super glue inside the hole, put it back, and that will be like forever. Just in case, I don't know, the screw would loosen over time and cause malfunctioning. Alright, so that's the plan. I'm going to test the theory and I will report back my findings. Couple of hours later, oh god, this camera has been a nightmare. Anyway, a couple of hours later, I think I have a proof of concept. Let's say a proof of concept, because I still have lots of things to fix. All right, let's see. I'm going to get my dummy film pack. I have 3 pictures inside, and let's see. Okay, dark slide out. Picture number 1. Something went weird there. And picture number 3. I'm going to take it on my shorting the contacts, although it shouldn't happen. Manual clearly states that even if you just push the button and then release it, it will go through the cycle. But I've done this like 3, 9, 10, 15 times and it worked fine, so I suppose I'm okay. Alright, so where should I start? So I replaced that contact. Don't mind this big blob of solder. I replaced the contact altogether. So I took the old one out, which is this one, because it had damage here. So I had another one, I had another body with all the 3 contacts, and I stole that contact from that particular body, replaced it, drilled the holes, screwed down the contact, soldered it back, only to see at some point that it is broken again. So this time this little wing, the one that goes through the PCB and gets soldered, actually broke. I don't know why. Maybe I touched it, maybe I twisted it, something happened. So I'll need to put the old one back. For the time being, I just kept the contact closed, so just to test the camera. Then, after getting it back, it fired, but it wouldn't complete the cycle. So what I noticed was that the pick, so this guy that picks the picture and pushes it out, was not returning to the parking position. Okay, so this is the parking. It's not called that way, but I don't really know what it's called. But the rearmost position, because it's spring loaded, that's where it should be, in between frames, and it was not. It was stopping pretty much here somewhere. And I noticed that if I would ever so slightly pull on this lower part of it, or on the upper part, it would snap and the cycle would complete. Then for a good couple of, not couple of hours, but a good hour for sure, I went back and forth trying to readjust the timing. I don't know why I had this fixation that it was the timing of the gears. Oh god, a total mess. I decided not to desolder these 6 points, so the points, the soldering points to the contacts on this gear train, and simply remove the screws, turn it like this, replace the gears, I mean change the timing, and put it back without moving anything. A nightmare. That is a true nightmare. But desoldering these bits and then resoldering them and so on would have been a lot messier. I would have probably completely trashed the PCB. So I think it was the right call, because all I needed to do was desolder and resolder these 7 points, these little 7 wires, which is super straightforward because you don't have these copper pads with the slot inside where you need to get things like this through the slot. And if I don't know if you can see, it's not straight, but it's more like a triangle. So these corners of the triangle would always catch and bind in those slots. Whatever, it's part of the design, I suppose. Now, because I kept going forward and backward with putting it on and off, I managed to strip this hole. So this hole is in plastic, super easy to strip the threads, but that's not such a big problem. I have plenty of little screws like this one that can self-tap in the plastic. But for some reason it seems that I either stripped this thread inside this copper post. No, that's what I did, because I swapped the screws and it's the same. So this one, this screw no longer screws in. I will need to figure it out. One option would be to use Loctite and just forget about it, but only after I am certain that the camera works. Okay, next issue. At some point it would run correctly, but the peak, so that peak would go like tang 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 tang, so it wouldn't latch. It wouldn't latch because of the peak latch. This thing for some reason would not go all the way down. So this peak latch, which is that part that I initially thought that it was left out from the design because I didn't understand what it does, but now I do, and it's super logical, has two claws, so two hooks, and it goes something like this, I think. So it's seated like this on this plate on the inside. This is pushed aside by that cam that also locks and unlocks the recock ram. So when the cycle completes, let's put it in another way. So you push the button. When you push the button, the first thing that will happen, the gear train starts moving, starts rotating. The yellow gear rotates. The cam of the lower of the yellow gear will release the recock ram, which is at the moment locked in position by that cam. When that happens, the mirror goes up in the taking position. The recock ram goes forward. When the mirror goes up and the recock ram goes forward, this contact will open, and also this contact will open. So both contacts 5 and 3 will open, and that will trigger the actual photograph. So the shutter blades will close, then open, close. That's the complete cycle. And then, since the drivetrain is still revolving, that pick latch, the pick arm starts to move forward. It will pick the image and will push it out until it gets trapped in between the rollers. The rollers are also connected to the gear train, so the image is spit out. When the cycle completes, that cam, the yellow cam, will start pushing on the pick latch. The pick latch will start moving up, and when it moves up enough, it will release the pick arm, and the pick arm will go tong back to its starting position. So pretty much I think that's the cycle, if I understood it correctly. Okay, what was happening? Well, the pick latch was not latching onto the pick arm, and that means that the pick arm would go all the way to its eject position and back, and forward and backwards, and forward and backwards. because the gear that controls and pushes the pick arm is gear number 3. So 1, 2, 3. In between number 1 and 3 there is how is it called, a reduction idler or something like that. So the full spin of the motor will be reduced as speed by the time it gets to the 3rd gear. But this one, the yellow gear, the one that controls the recock ram, is a lot more reduced because I think there are 2 more reduction idlers in between. So the gear ratio between the first and the yellow one, or the third and the yellow one, is like x to 1. It's a lot, or 1 to x. I don't know which one is which. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say is that during one full cycle of the yellow gear, because one full cycle of the yellow gear means one full cycle of the photograph procedure or action. So one full gear, one full rotation or revolution of that yellow gear is the equivalent of, I don't know, I think 5 or something like that revolutions of the 3rd gear that controls the pick arm. So during one full cycle you would hear the pick arm go pang 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 4, 5, 6 times. I don't remember how many times. Okay, so after fiddling a bit with this ledge, I managed to make it ledge. So I think I bent it very, very, very slightly. All right, but then it would not release. It would lock onto the pick arm, but it would not release it at the end of the cycle. So the idea is that during the cycle, the 3rd gear pushes the pick arm forward, and when it reaches the end of its forward motion, the pick arm is locked in place by the pick latch, so that further rotations or revolutions of the 3rd gear no longer have any action on that pick arm. That's why normally you only see it move once, not 5 times or 6 times or 4 times. Okay. So I was in this position where the bloody pick latch would not release the pick arm. And I initially thought it was a problem with the meshing of the gears. I tried a couple of times to retime the gear train. No improvements. And then I realized that it's not the gears. It's not the gears because the yellow gear controls everything and the yellow gear just spins. The camera knows when to start and when to stop due to those contacts. Those contacts are closed on and opened by the recock ram. The recock ram moves according to the position of the yellow gear. So it's the yellow gear that sets the tone for the music. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where the other one, the 3rd gear with the pin that controls the pickup latch, pickup arm, can be in any position. It doesn't matter. Of course, it matters because the pick arm will not behave accordingly. But the only thing that matters, that truly matters for a complete cycle, with or without spitting out something in case the position of the 3rd gear is wrong, what really matters is the yellow gear. So I didn't really have any solution. I mean, it was pointless for me to change the timing, because it wasn't about changing the timing. It was about this little fucker. The angle, so this is, I have 2 or 3 of these. This was one of them, I think the one that was on this body, and I eventually replaced it with the one that was on my broken mirror black camera. And the problem was that the angle between these two was a bit wrong. I'm not really sure if it was too small or too large. I think it was too small, the angle. So basically, even if this part of the piece, so this hook, was pushed correctly by the cam of the yellow gear, because it only makes sense, the other hook that was holding the pick arm was not for the same position of the, let's call this the lower hook. So for the same position, or for a given position of the lower hook determined by the cam on the yellow gear, the position of the upper hook was wrong, was too downwards, too close, too close to the pick arm, and that's why it would never release it. But it was like a hair, and that's why when I manually tried to pull on the pick arm, it would snap and be released. So I think literally a hair on the edge of this hook was wrong. Either that, or this hook had a worn edge, which might be possible because it certainly looks a bit worn, but I'm not really sure if that was the real cause. Anyhow, I replaced it with the other one. I also replaced this with the newer version. At some point they changed the design of this piece. Both this one and this one are the same design, apparently, but the spring is different. They also replaced the spring, and the manual says that should you replace the pick latch, use the newer version for both pick latch and spring, because the new spring is a bit beefier, so it will suffer less from fatigue in time. So I did just that, and now the bloody camera seems to be working, unless I'm going to mess it up again, because I'm going to admit it again, due to my incompetence, lack of knowledge, due to my lack of knowledge mainly, lack of understanding of how this thing actually works, I did it with my own hands. So I messed it up with my own hands. I messed up the gears in the gear train. I messed up the screws, I messed up soldering points, I messed up the motor, I messed up everything. But I don't regret it. And I don't regret it because I would have never learned so much about this camera. Shouldn't have it. I hate if clauses in English language. I used to know them, I don't know them anymore. So you get the point. If I didn't mess up things, if I haven't, I'm super tired, so it doesn't matter. I messed up things and therefore I learned. That's the basic idea. Alright, What's next? Well, next I am going to swap that capacitor for the 600 mod, because why not? I am going to also clean the electric eye, because I didn't. Initially I didn't really have intentions to go that in depth. I will need to replace this. I will need to do something with the screws, and I will need to recheck and resolder every little joint. Is it a joint? Not the smoking joint, but the soldering joint. Yeah, this one is okay, this one is okay, this one needs to be replaced, these two look okay, I think these are okay. I will need to check all these because they look awful and they are not okay. And in the end I will need to really solder these. Right now they are like just kept in place, so the thing would actually work. But for the time being, I think I am satisfied. No, I can't. Yeah. I cannot close the camera because this is in the way. But I am going to remove it anyway. So yeah, I'm quite satisfied that the camera is actually alive after all that it's been through. And right now I am somewhat confident that by the end of the series it will actually be functional. And yes, this will be my camera. First of all, because it seems we have a history, and second of all, because I honestly wouldn't feel alright selling this to anyone, because it's a bit dodgy and I'm not really sure how it will stand up to the test of time, so I'd rather have it for myself. Okay, I'm super tired, I need to go to bed. It's 20 past 12 in the night, and tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. I need to wake up and go to work. So yeah, I will see you next time in episode number 8, I think it will be the next one, when I am going to finish working on this camera, because yeah, because it's been too long already. See ya.